Good day everyone, I am Denver Morato Lumokso and I am tasked to report about the story of Ceyx and Alcyone. The story of Alcyone and Ceyx is very touching and portrays the love that triumphs over tragedy. This young couple was so much in love that neither the gods nor death could set them apart. Alcyone followed her husband to the other life and did so with her free will. From this myth also derives a well-known phrase, the halcyon days. Now, let us meet the characters of this story. Alcyone, the daughter of Iülus, king of the winds, also the wife of Ceyx. We have Somnus, the god of sleep, Ceyx, the king of Thessaly and the son of Lucifer, the light bearer. He is also the husband of Alcyone. Iris, the rainbow goddess and the messenger of God. Zeus, the chief of God, decided this was an opportune time to punish the couple for their sacrilege, as well as Morpheus, the son of god of sleep and a shapeshifter. The lovely Alcyone was the daughter of Iülus, the Greek god of the wind, and her mother was either Inerate or Agale. She was devoted wife of Ceyx, king of Trachis in central Greece. Ceyx ruled his kingdom with justice and in peace. Alcyone and Ceyx were admired by gods and mortals alike for their great physical beauty as well as the profound love they had for each other. They were so happy in their marriage that they used to often playfully call one another Zeus and Hera. This infuriated the chief of gods, who regarded it an audacity. Zeus waited for the proper time to punish the arrogant couple who dared to make themselves comparable gods. Wouldn't put his beloved wife through unnecessary danger. Alcyone watched with bad feeling as the ship carrying her husband was getting away. Zeus, the chief of God, decided was an opportune time to punish the couple for their sacrilege. He launched a thunderbolt that raised a furious hurricane, engulfing the ship, which began to sink. Ceyx realized that the end had come for him, and before he got drowned, he prayed to the gods to allow his body be washed ashore so as to enable his beloved Alcyone to perform the funeral rites. As Ceyx gasped his last breath, his father Isophoros, the morning star, watched helplessly, shrouding his face in clouds, unable to leave the heavens and rescue his son. The lovely Alcyone waited for her husband for a long time, praying continually to the gods, especially Hera, queen of the gods, for the safe return of Ceyx. Hera felt profound sorrow for the tragic fate of Ceyx. She sent her messenger Iris, goddess of the rainbow, to look for Hypnos, the god of sleep and comforter of the afflicted, to whom was assigned the mission of gently informing Alcyone about the death of her husband. Hypnos, in his return, entrusted the mission to his son Morpheus, an expert in forming apparitions. Morpheus created a lifelike specter of Ceyx, which revealed to Alcyone the tragic circumstances concerning shipwreck and death of her husband. In profound grief, Alcyone ran to the seashore, beating her beast and tearing her garments. She suddenly beheld the body of a man that had washed ashore. Coming closer, she realized it was the body of her husband beloved Ceyx. After performing the last rites and unable to continue living without her husband, Alcyone threw herself into the sea and got drowned, determined to her husband in the land of the dead. The gods on Olympus were profoundly affected by the tragic fate of Alcyone and Ceyx, as well as their wonderful love for one another, which not even the frosty hands of death could extinguish. In order to atone for his rash action that was responsible for this tragedy, Zeus transformed the couple into the halcyon birds, kingfisher. Coming closer, she realized it was the body of her husband, beloved Ceyx. After performing the last rites and unable to continue living without her husband, Alcyone threw herself into the sea and got drowned, determined to join her husband in the land of the dead. The gods on Olympus were profoundly affected by the tragic fate of Alcyone and Ceyx, as well as their wonderful love for one another, which is not even the frosty hands of death could extinguish. In order to atone for his rash action that was responsible for this tragedy, Zeus transformed the couple into the halcyon bird or kingfisher. And to understand better what was the story all about Ceyx and Alcyone, I want you to watch this video clip.
There are several love stories in Greek mythology, many of which ends in tragic heartbreak. Some of those stories served as pillars of inspiration for famous tales like Romeo and Juliet. Others fade away in time, and very few people heard about them, as was the case of Ceyx and Alcyone. Ceyx reigned over Thessaly, and he was a good ruler. With him, Thessaly went through a period of peace and prosperity. The king was married with Alcyone, his beloved and devoted wife. But the king was quite dismayed due to several mishaps that his kingdom was experiencing, which included his brother's death. Ceyx started to believe that his kingdom no longer counted with the gods' benevolence, and therefore, he made the decision to travel to the Oracle of Delphi, looking for answers. To reach the Oracle, the king would have to go through a morose and sometimes dangerous sea journey. Knowing her husband's plan, Alcyone experienced an ominous sign and begged him to relinquish the idea, or at least to take her with him. But Ceyx didn't mind his wife's pleas. Although he didn't want to leave his beloved partner behind, he also didn't want to put her at risk. He promised to Alcyone that he would be back in 2 weeks at most. The king embarked and waved at his beloved wife, who, with teary eyes, waved back. Initially, the journey was quiet, but the weather quickly shifted, and the sailors were hit by a powerful storm. Ceyx's vessel was swallowed by the tides, and the king was engulfed by the sea, along with his ship. His last thoughts were about his wife and his promise of returning to her, which would never be fulfilled. Alcyone spent every day praying to the gods for a safe return of her husband, unaware of the tragedy that struck him. The return deadline had already expired, and Alcyone began to pray even more and making offerings, especially to the goddess Hera, which is the protective goddess of marriages and couples. The goddess, witnessing the queen's grief due to her missing husband, decided to act. Hera called the goddess Iris, her faithful messenger, and ordered her to meet Morpheus, the god of dreams. She wanted to have him convey her message as a dream. Iris stepped into the dark cave where the god of dreams slept. The brightness of the goddess's colored rainbow lights woke up the god, and, after delivering the message, the goddess went away. Hypnos, the god of sleep, ordered his son Morpheus to shape himself like Ceyx and visit Alcyone in her dreams, fulfilling Hera's command. Morpheus visited Alcyone in her sleep. She saw her husband, and he appeared pale, with a saddened face, as well as wet hair and clothes. and what seemed like her husband's ghost told her, "I come to reveal my sad fate. I went overboard, and my life was prematurely interrupted. Weep and mourn for me, because I will not come back to life to fulfill my promise." Alcyone threw herself at the ghost's feet and pleaded him not to go away, and when she tried to grab his legs, he vanished, and so the queen woke from her dream and was sure that her husband would never make it back. Alcyone went to the beach, the same place where she had seen her beloved man for the last time. That's when she spotted a floating body, and Alcyone immediately recognized Ceyx. Desperate, she jumped into the sea to reach her husband, despite not knowing how to swim. Alcyone was about to drown. Her life was also coming to an abrupt end. That was when the gods levitated her body, and the queen was turned into a beautiful bird. But even as a bird, she still wept for the loss of her love. Then she flew up to her husband's body and kissed him. Ceyx then reborn as a bird as well. And together, the couple of birds conquered the air. From that day, once a year for 7 days, the Greek seas calm down, a sign that Alcyone and Ceyx are returning to hatch their eggs.
The myth lives till today through a phrase. The phrase Halcyon Days owes its origin to this beautiful myth of Alcyone and Ceyx. According to the legend, for 2 weeks, every January, Yulu's father of Alcyone comes down the winds and the waves so that Alcyone, in the form of kingfisher bird, can safely make her nest on the beach and lay her eggs. Hence, the term Halcyon Days comes to signify a period of peace and calm. So the symbolism of the story Ceyx and Alcyone, which is a halcyon bird, which symbolizes eternal love and freedom, because when turned into birds, the couple could love each other and be with other forever. Symbolizes tranquility, because when the birds lay their eggs on the sea, it is calm for the next 7 days. That would be all, and thank you for listening. I hope that you learn a lot.